Patrick Hicks Music Stories presents Every Grammys Ever, the 46th Annual Grammy Awards, February 8th, 2004. Well, the Beyoncé era of the Grammys has officially begun. The most nominated and most awarded artist in Grammy history, Beyoncé Knowles gets her first wins as a solo artist tonight, and also as part of what I think is the greatest Grammys opening in history when she comes out to perform with Prince. A little check-in on Prince. He actually gets a Grammy nomination tonight. It's kind of a weird one. It's in the category Best Pop Instrumental Album for his album NEWS. He hadn't had any nominations since the 38th Annual Awards, and he hadn't had a win since the 29th Awards when he won Best R&B Performance for Kiss. He will get a couple more wins later. This is the year that he drops his album Musicology, which gets a couple Grammys. But he's here tonight to show why he is the best live performer of all time. He absolutely tears the house down. And it kicks off what is a pretty good Grammys. You've got some great performances. Foo Fighters, White Stripes, Christina Aguilera, Alicia Keys, OutKast, a tribute to funk. One thing I will say that is a little shameful about the award ceremony tonight is that Janet Jackson was supposed to appear as part of a tribute to Luther Vandross, and she was taken off of the show because this telecast was 1 week after the Super Bowl halftime show. You know the one with Justin Timberlake where there was a wardrobe malfunction, something that Janet Jackson was unfairly demonized for, and somehow Justin Timberlake was unscathed by. He still got to perform tonight, but Janet Jackson wasn't allowed to. And I already thought that the Grammys had a weird thing against Janet Jackson, but now I'm even more convinced of it. And while the nominations are pretty good, the actual winners are a little wonky. So in Best New Artist, you have Fountains of Wayne, Sean Paul, and 50 Cent, which kind of seems like a no-brainer since his album Get Rich or Die Trying kind of owned 2003. It was the biggest album of the year, one of the biggest albums of all time. But he lost to Evanescence. Evanescence, the band that started as a Christian band, or they said they weren't Christian, but they were promoted to the Christian market, and they were kind of like Hot Topic brought to life, and they only had one hit song, but that was the Best New Artist. Then Song of the Year is also bizarre. You have Lose Yourself by Eminem, kind of a generational classic. Beautiful, the Christina Aguilera song written by Linda Perry. Then I'm With You by Avril Lavigne. Then Keep Me in Your Heart by Warren Zevon. And the winner, Dance with My Father, written by Richard Marx and Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross had had a stroke in 2003. He had been in a coma for a couple months, so it was clear that his time was short. He does end up passing this year in July of 2005, and he gives a pretty emotional acceptance speech for this. But then that song is not nominated in Record of the Year. In Record of the Year, you have Lose Yourself, Where's the Love by the Black Eyed Peas and Justin Timberlake, Crazy in Love by Beyoncé and Jay-Z, and Hey Ya by OutKast. Now, I know what you're thinking, those four songs all involve hip-hop. They're either straight-up hip-hop songs, songs done by a hip-hop group, or R&B songs with a hip-hop verse. So are we finally going to get a hip-hop Record of the Year win? No, this is the Grammys. Of course, the win went to the one song nominated that wasn't a hip-hop song. It went to Coldplay's Clocks. A bunch of those songs do win in the other categories. Crazy in Love gets Best Rap/Sung Collaboration. Lose Yourself wins in a new category tonight, Best Rap Song. And Eminem also wins Best Male Rap Solo Performance, while Missy Elliott's Work It gets Best Female Rap Solo Performance. And then they get rid of that category. And then Best Rap Album, we see some great nominations. The Roots' album Phrenology, which is actually from last year. Jay-Z's The Blueprint 2. Missy Elliott's Under Construction. Of course, 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. And then the winner is OutKast's Speaker Box/The Love Below. We see the White Stripes finally get their first nominations and win tonight. They win in Best Alternative Music Album for their album Elephant. Now here are the nominations for Album of the Year. We see the White Stripes with Elephant. We see Missy Elliott get her first Album of the Year nomination with Under Construction. OutKast get another Album of the Year nomination for Speaker Box/The Love Below. Best New Artist winners Evanescence are nominated for Fallen. I don't know how that happened. And then Justin Timberlake is nominated for Justified. He also won Best Male Pop Vocal Performance for Cry Me a River and Best Pop Vocal Album for Justified, and in his acceptance speech he did apologize to Janet Jackson. Now before we get to the winner, let's talk about some albums from 2003 that were not nominated. Okay, 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying not being nominated for Album of the Year is kind of insane. I'm not saying it's better than OutKast or Missy Elliott, but it deserved to be on the list. It was a huge album.
50 did not win Best New Artist at the Grammys.
There was nothing bigger than 50.
Nothing bigger, and nobody since maybe like Snoop came out the gate like that. My first album didn't do it. I never saw someone's first album and the wave happen like he had.
Would you ever consider, joining a board and maybe you have a vote in it?
First of all, that vote is fake as f. That's not a real vote. That's not a real vote. They give it to who they want to give it to.
Also, Radiohead's album Hail to the Thief, it's only nominated in Best Alternative, where it lost to the White Stripes. The Mars Volta put out an amazing record, Deloused in the Crematorium, gets nothing. They will eventually get one Grammy win, but just that one win and that one nomination in their whole career. The Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Fever to Tell, also only got one nomination for Best Alternative Music Album, which it lost, and nothing else, nothing for the song Maps. This was such an important band, it was such an important scene happening, and it was barely recognized at all. Same with The Strokes, Room on Fire, got nothing. One of my favorites from this year, The Darkness, Permission to Land. And then a deeply personal one, obviously was not going to get nominated for any Grammys, but gotta mention it, Ted Leo and the Pharmacist, Hearts of Oak. And the Grammy goes to OutKast, Speakerboxx / The Love Below. Finally, a hip-hop album wins Album of the Year. Unfortunately, to date, this is the only hip-hop album that has ever won Album of the Year at the Grammys. And you gotta think that probably had more to do with Andre 3000 and the Love Below part of this double album than it did with Big Boy and his Speakerboxx part of the double album. But here's my musical hot take. I actually think Speakerboxx is better than the Love Below. But they're both great. This is a great win. OutKast had put out so many great records that were not being recognized by the Academy. I'm glad that they finally got an Album of the Year win. And overall, from opening performance to final award of the night, this was a good Grammys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time for the highs and lows of the 47th Grammys in 2005.